Hello and welcome to a very special Up The Poshcast. With no game this week, we decided to do a listeners' questions episode, and thank you to everybody who sent one in. We covered loads of different things, everything from the short-term future of Darren Ferguson to more long-term things like what we need to do to get back to the top of League One. Also, things about the pod itself, miscellaneous questions. Had a really, really good time with this one. I think you'll enjoy it as well. Today, to answer those questions, I was joined by Lods, Del, and Max. I'm Harry. Just one notice today, we are proudly sponsored by Prime Vehicle Sales. They're a used vehicle company based in Sawtry. If you're thinking of changing or upgrading your vehicle, they might be the spot for you. Please go and say hi to them and see what they can do for you for your next vehicle. That is Prime Vehicle Sales down in Sawtry. And with that, enjoy this very special Up The Poshcast. All right, very first question from Owen Keaton. With Chris Conn-Clarke's loan deal being only until January, do you think there is a chance he has a part to play this season? Who wants
I'll take that one. So, not necessarily this season, but I still believe there could be an option for him at Peterborough. I think we will have him back at the end of the season, and I think he might have another chance with a different manager if Fergie was to go.
That actually leads quite nicely on to the second question from Chris Greenfield. What's your current stance with the club, manager, and ownership? Do you want to go straight back onto it, Duff?
Well, I could do. My current stance is something's got to change. Not sure what. Something's got to change. The ownership, it is what it is. That ain't going to change yet. Could change in the very near future. 20 years, could be a nice time to sell on. Manager, he ain't got much longer if it continues like this. And the club, I think the club internally are working extremely hard of being involved in certain things, seeing that they are working really, really hard to make Peterborough United the place to go as a football club. They won the Gold Award. So there's positives internally. We need to get it right on the pitch. And as far as ownership, it is what it is.
I personally, and anyone who watches the pod regularly knows this, I'm D-Mac in, I'm Fergie in. If we lose to Burton and Blackpool, I will be sympathetic if D-Mac makes a decision. But honestly, he's the best manager the club's ever had. I think we are since deadline day, played a lot of decent football. And as for D-Mac, there's been, in the last 19 years, there's been other times where we've had a run of some bad signings that led to us coming down the table a bit, but we have come back from there. And I think we've found some good ones on deadline day now. And we'll be fine, I think. I think we'll be fine. And if we then have the opportunity next season to continue building with some of the young players we've got, I think we could go back towards League One in time, or towards the top of League One in time.
My stance on Darren Ferguson is quite different, actually. It's that if at this precise moment in time, I'm Fergie out. I think Darragh MacAnthony said it on his podcast. Any other manager would be sacked. The only reason why he hasn't been sacked is because it's Darren Ferguson. But I feel sometimes is keeping him best for the club at the moment when he isn't getting the best out of this squad. The question that's going to be asked, isn't it, is if we lose to Burton, if we lose to Blackpool, I think we're going to play Rotherham in that time as well. If we lose to those three clubs and then we sack him, why didn't we sack him when we had a 2-week break for a new manager to bed in? And I think that's going to be the biggest question, because I think I would be Fergie in when we get to Burton, because I wouldn't want to then sack a manager and disrupt the flow of the players. But like right now, when we've got this week and a half now, really, not even that, a week until our next game, I probably would give him that time to bed in and give him those training sessions.
I'm Fergie in at the moment as well. I do agree with Harry, though. I think his time is limited now. I think a loss at Burton might change my opinion, depending on how badly we lose. Regarding Darragh, I mean, there's the argument you can have where, yeah, he's transparent, yeah, he communicates with fans. He is unlike no owner. However, I am getting a bit bored of it. And if you were to compare him with a rich owner that doesn't get involved with the club and just gives the director of football some money and says, there you go, sign a team, appoint a decent manager, get the results on the pitch, I think I'd like that right now. Maybe not so much with Barry Fry. Maybe I'm talking like a bit further on in the future. We've had quite a few questions about Darren Ferguson, to be honest with you. Andrew King asked, is Fergie in or out the wrong question? Should we be taking the opportunity to make him director of football at the end of the season and allow him to nurture a young manager like Tommy Rose? So Tommy Rose, who he suggested. We've had Wes has suggested Damien Duff. Of course, we've had the Steve Evans suggestion from Alex. And then Matthew Lord asked if there is an ex-player that we want to give the manager role to. Who do we give it to? Anyone got any opinions on that?
I have an opinion. If he was to go, there is some pretty big names out there that have, I've been reading a little bit about people who make a few shouts. We've got John Terry. Now, I'm not a fan of John Terry, but I've been reading some of his quotes. I've read some of his quotes about what he would do if he become a lower league manager. And I've got to be impressed with him. You play to what you've got and you move from there. You've also got the, who was a sick note at Arsenal, went to Norwich, Jack Wilshere. You know what I mean? That's an opportunity. Whether it would come, I don't know. But the thing is, we don't know how good these guys are. It was the same as when we took Fergie. We took Fergie. Nobody even thought, he's never had an experience of management. I think a couple of them would be good shouts, to be fair. But who knows? Who knows? I wouldn't take Steve Evans. You absolutely would I not take that bloke back to this club. But why not go for an inexperienced manager who's got the knowledge of, working with some great managers? And those are two good names, I believe. I can't stand John Terry, by the way, but what a defender. But I like what he had to say about stepping into management.
If I remember rightly, what he said is he basically doesn't like tactics. And I don't know if that would work with DMAC. I think if you're going to become the manager at Peterborough United, you've got to come in eyes wide open on what's expected of you in that role and the way in which you link with our El Presidente. And he will make signings that are strategic, basically not ones you necessarily want for your squad right now, and you will be expected to play them. We know that from what DMAC said about Graham Wesley and how he didn't like some of the signings that DMAC made for him. You've also got to be willing to accept that the owner is going to make comments publicly about how the team's playing, and you will have to live with the spectre of Darren Ferguson returning for a fifth stint. Would John Terry put up with that? I don't think so, personally. There may be managers out there who could. We'd have to, there's no way of knowing until it happens. No manager has got promoted in the DMAC era other than Darren Ferguson. It would be a first outside of him. So if he sacks Fergie, and I'm sure DMAC is thinking about it, he'll have to pick very wisely because it's going to be trying to achieve something he hasn't achieved before in 19 years.
Yep, I'm in agreement of what's been said mostly. I want a young manager or an ex-player with an ideology or a philosophy that he can implement into the squad. I want somebody that buys into Peterborough United, although we are used as a frog hoppy sort of club when it comes to players. I'd like a manager that really buys into a similar to the situation that Birmingham had, albeit very different from finances to vision, all sorts between us and Birmingham, but very similar to what Birmingham had. That's what I'd like. Jack Wilshere is probably my number one. I'd love Jack Wilshere. I think he did a great job at Norwich before they relieved him to go in a different direction. I think Jack Wilshere's worked with a lot of top managers. John Terry, if he dropped this low, would be good. I think he probably would. But if we do just want to stay up and we don't want to buy into a project, because if we buy into a project now, there's always the likelihood that we do get relegated, then sorry, Dale. Steve Evans probably is the best name because I think he probably will keep us up with the tactics that he plays.
I think I'm going to echo everything you guys have said with the young manager for two reasons. One, because it seems to be the trend at the moment. You see a lot of teams with getting some success with young, inexperienced managers. And then two, because basically what I said before, the manager needs to be a yes man to work for Darragh, really, don't they? If you listen to his pod that he's released last week, where he said he rang Fergie and asked why JD's playing centre back and why Lisby's on the bench. You imagine Steve Evans getting that phone call after winning a game midweek. There's going to be a lot of people that just can't hack that, and I think the young, inexperienced managers will probably be more inclined to work in that environment. Regarding actual names, Tommy Rowe isn't a bad shout, because the only thing I know about him is he's been at Man United for a few years. He must have seen quite a lot of different coaching styles from the different managers they've had in that time. And he might not have worked with them directly, but I imagine he's actually learnt quite a lot in that time. And like I said before, the trend seems to be these young managers that have learnt it in a coaching role where they're not sort of in the limelight, and then they go and apply the trade for a smaller team. I think it could work with Tommy Rowe. I think that's quite a sensible suggestion.
So next question from Bill Bow. Anyway, which of your pre-season predictions do you think are still possible? Got to be honest, I can't remember what my pre-season prediction was. So it's over to you, boys.
Well, I predicted we'd be relegated, finishing 22nd. I was the lowest out of everyone in the pod. John thought 21st. I mean, I don't want it to be true. It's still possible. I don't think it will be true. I actually think it will stay up now. But yeah, that was on the cards. I also predicted that we would score, and someone's going to have to fact check me on this, but I think it was something like more than 30 set piece goals. It was just basically more than Lincoln did last year, because they had a crazy number of set piece goals. I thought we'd do even more with the new set piece staff with Rooster's influence. And that is clearly not going to happen.
Yeah, I can't remember where I suggested we'd finish, but I'll be honest, I think any of our predictions for finishing position could still come in. I think I backed Keller for being player of the season. It still could happen. But the one stinker I had that definitely is not going to happen is I said that Odo has an outside chance of getting 10 goals and 10 assists. I'm we're less than a quarter into the season. I'm ready to say that that's not happening already.
So our next question is from Ian Mills. And if Posh are to start the season, what 4 teams are worse than Posh at present?
I'll answer this one. And I have to say I've done some stat checking on this. So anyone that's not into stats should probably skip ahead. Right now, Burton worse than us, for sure. They'll probably finish bottom of the league. I think Northampton are doing better than what they should be. I think they'll be below us. And the 2 other teams that I think are worse than us at present, but might not be at the end of the season, is Rotherham and Blackpool. If you look at all their stats, they're all pretty poor. I mean, Burton and Northampton have both scored less goals than us. And Burton and Northampton have both massively outperforming their XG against. So they've conceded less than what they should have. You could argue Rotherham and Blackpool have had better fixtures than us. So from that point of view, I'd say that they're worse than us currently. My rogue shout for an absolute false position is Lincoln City. I think that we will finish above them come the end of the season. And I know they absolutely dispatched us the other week, but I think they're in a false position, and I think we will finish higher than them.
If you're going to try an engagement bait, Lod, at least do it with a bigger fan base than Lincoln City.
No, I did the stats, and I was like, you know what? Lincoln's stats aren't even that good. Where are they in the league? And I think they're 4th at the moment, aren't they? They're doing really well, but their goalkeepers like performing really well, and all the XG stuff they're overperforming, shall I say? They call it the underlying numbers, don't they? The geeks. So Lincoln's underlying numbers aren't great. Let's put it that way.
I am not the biggest lover of XG and XGC and all of this nonsense. But I will answer this question because I think I actually said in our preseason predictions that Rotherham would go down. I think Rotherham will go down. I think they look really poor. But another team as well that will, I think is their time to kick the can and head down to League Two. And Exeter City, they thumped us when we were really trying to transition to this new system. And I don't know. I don't think they're as good as they make out to be. And in that 4th team, it's going to really be like a smash and grab. I think we'll be in the mix. I think Cobblers will be in the mix. Worse than us, I don't know. I don't know if there's 4 teams worse than us, but there's definitely 3, I think.
All right, Matthew Lord asks, if you were in charge of Peterborough United for one day, what is the first thing you would all do?
Get rid of safe standing in London Road. Simple. Why? Let's bring the atmosphere back to London Road, okay? So we can have atmosphere in London Road and the youngsters can go to the GH and everyone's going to be happy. So that is what I would do for the first thing. There's lots of other things after that, but that's the first thing I'll do.
Don't get me wrong. Getting rid of safe standing in London Road is the more realistic and better answer. I would just love to rebuild London Road and give the fans a proper quality modern home stand. The GH is so good. There's no reason we can't have it at the other end of the ground. There are reasons. It's the businesses behind that we'd have to try and work with. But I think there's potential there. There's enough space. It would just take money and probably a little bit of work with those businesses, a bit of work with the council. Certainly a lot easier than building a whole new stadium.
Yeah, I think I'd do something with London Road. The problem is that Dale doesn't win either way here, because Dale wants to remove the safe standing so he gets his terrace feel back. But I think, Harry, we want to rebuild this so that we're not in some like run down shoddy terrace while we're trying to watch the games. I know that there's a lot of history of the terrace and it's great, but I think I agree with Harry. I think the first thing I'd do is probably rebuild that stand.
I'm going to jump in really quickly. Okay, I can get rid of the safe standing in a day. It will take you years to build your new stand. I've made an instant impact. All right, then we can build a new stand.
Well, there actually is a question about the GH that's further along, so I'll ask it now. It's from Unpopular Posh. He said, "What's the obsession with the GH? I don't understand the hype."
I will tell you the obsession with the GH. It is fantastic when it gets going. But it's, again, very similar to our atmosphere. I think our atmosphere as a club has been, our home atmosphere anyway, is quite poor as a whole. But you look at games like Oxford in the playoffs. I mean, that was one of the best atmospheres I've heard in my time going to Peterborough, and I haven't been going awfully long, may I add. But it was easily by far one of the best atmospheres. That stand was absolutely rocking, and when it gets going, it really does give it does strike some sort of fear into oppositions. I mean, you look at Cobblers and Cambridge in the Oxford season when they came here, and they both sides got demolished when we were in that GH display, because we were loud, we were noisy, we drowned out the away support. You don't get that in the terrace, being so far away from the away support. You just don't. And the main stand don't get lively enough to combat the atmosphere that the away fans give. So in the end, the away atmosphere rings true if you're not in the GH, and that gives the oppositions an advantage. So I think that's the obsession with the GH. Not only that, the infrastructure is better, the facilities are better.
I completely echo that. The tall roof is what makes the massive difference, and that allows you to essentially fill the ground with your noise. You can tell when you're part of it that you're making the noise is going further, and that it's self-reinforcing. The good feeling of the GH is self-reinforcing. And in the London Road end, it's the opposite, because you know your sound's being kept in. So why should you sing as loud?
I get all arguments. You know, I'm happy to stay on London Road, and I also understand why people want to go to the GH. You know, especially you youngsters, you need to have a nice clean toilet. You need to have a nice clean concourse to walk in. You know what I mean? So what would be ideal is if we can get more fans in. Loads could go in the GH with, you know, a blue section. They're doing a really good job at the moment of trying to promote, people going to the GH. I personally prefer London Road, but I also understand why people want to go to the GH. As you say, the ideal thing, get rid of the roof of London Road, rebuild it or whatever. But everyone's got a preference. I prefer London Road. I can understand why people like GH. Don't think we should force anybody to move, but there's an opportunity from.
The next question is from Scott Peterborough, and he asked, do you agree with DMAC or Fergie's opinion that if we started the league with his current squad, we would be top 6? If not, where do you think we would be?
I don't think we would be top 6. I think the fact that we've had this squad together now for 5 games and they're on 6 points in that period tells you that we wouldn't be top 6. I don't care that some of the teams have been hard. When you're a top 6 team, you beat the good teams, you beat the hard teams. So no, I don't think we'd be top 6. I don't think we'd be in the relegation zone, but I think we'd be mid-table with this squad. We're still a few pieces away, and that would be assuming that we kept all the loan players.
I don't think we'd be bottom of the league had we had all this squad together, but I don't think we would have been top 6. So I'd say somewhere around mid-table, bottom half. Our fixtures have been tough. If you actually look at which games we would have been expected to win, I don't think there was that many. So from that point of view, we can't really be too disappointed. But that said, Posh always end up getting some surprise results. And had we had a fully fit squad, maybe we would have got the odd surprise one.
Okay, so let's move on then. Scott Peterborough, do you believe that we should return to our transfer policy of young, hungry, non-league talent? Obviously, we have abandoned it in recent windows, but is it something that you think we should return to? Who wants to answer that one first?
It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because back in the day, young, hungry, non-league talent wasn't as popular as what it is now. So I feel like all of the best youngsters that are playing in non-league are just going to get snapped up by bigger clubs than us. So it's all about the sales pitch. What can Peterborough do for these players that these other teams can't? And if our facilities are lower than these Premier League clubs, if the money's not as good, then we're already struggling to convince them, aren't we? I think if we look at the recent signings, George Nevitt is a great signing. He's the sort of player that we've plucked from non-league that has a great future. And if we can get players of his caliber in, I've got no problem with that. However, we should always be balancing these players with some experienced heads, because if you imagine George Nevitt going straight into the first team last season, we probably would have been relegated. We needed those experienced players coming in January to save us. And that was without George Nevitt starting. That was with Fernandez and Wallen at the back, wasn't it?
I don't agree with the question. We are still going for non-league young and hungry talent. In the last summer, we got Chris Conn-Clarke and Nevitt. This summer, we got Lisby. And just because we're going to get a bit of experience, which, by the way, we've always done in players like Lees, on loan, Kyoso and O'Connor, that doesn't mean that we aren't still doing the young and hungry thing. I think most of the players do fit that mold. And I think the one thing that's been different that I don't think we should go back to, because we've been burnt by it twice now, is the international experiments. The Irish experiment, 10 years ago, yielded Chris Forrester, but outside of that, I can't really name anyone who was any good. And the Swedish experiment hasn't worked at all. So that part of the model needs to go. But one, I think we'll keep with the young and hungry, and we haven't gone away from it. Not really. It's not like we ever signed 5 non-league players in a single window, and I don't think we ever will. But that doesn't mean we're not still trying to find gems from there.
Yeah, let's move away from the non-league. Let's talk about being young and hungry. I mean, this window alone, we've signed Harry Leonard, who's 21, Brandon Keller, who's 20, Frith and Garbett are both only 23, Ben Woods is 22, Lisby's 21, and from non-league. I mean, you can, the list goes on, on players that we've signed this season that fit that young and hungry mold. I don't think we've moved away from it. I think we knew that we were in a rut. And we've gone and panic signed some loans and Kyoso and O'Connor. I mean, even if they were panics or not, they are both fantastic players. And DMAC has said these players aren't going to not be a part of our plans. If we can stay in the league this season, I think Kyoso and O'Connor both sign. I think we've got a fantastic back four going into next season, albeit we might need to sell our left back to help with Harley Mills. So we're talking about not being young, not being hungry. I think Dornelli, Mills, they're still getting their chances. I think we've signed young this season. We've just got some older heads in towards the end. That hasn't changed our transfer model, I don't think.
Right, next question is from Simon Reeves. Which player do you think has been better than you expected, and which player has been worse this season?
I'll go in with the better player. We'll get grief for it, but George Nevitt. I think George Nevitt has been very, very good this season. Nobody expecting him to be as good as what he was after all the criticism of last season, etc. And the fact that he's only 19, I don't know if you knew that. The fact George Nevitt is by far the player that's impressed me the most. Who is the worst? Take a bloody pick, mate, to be fair. It could be most of them, let's be honest. But let's be positive. I'm going George Nevitt, most impressed with.
So far, because I agree on Nevitt being way better than I expected him to be, I thought Mendy would be better. I thought Mendy would be actually a lot better than he has been. Often players, and Kyoto's actually an example in his own right. Fullbacks that don't necessarily do well at other clubs in League One or the Championship translate so well here because of the fact that they have a completely different role at Peterborough United compared to most of the clubs, because it's just such an attacking ask when playing for Posh or the Darren Ferguson. And he's had all the opportunity in the world to bomb forward. And to his credit, he has gone forward. He just hasn't done anything with it when he's got there. I hope he turns it around, but I thought he would be a lot better than he has been so far.
I'm going to echo the George Nevitt comments. I think he's improved massively over the summer. So definitely playing at a higher level than what I expected him to. Worst is Odo. I don't know what it is, but I thought that perhaps we thought that Odo was worse than what he actually is, and he was going to come back into this season and prove us all wrong. But the minutes he's played, he's been just as bad as he was last season.
Yeah, I'm going to be like Dale. I won't be commenting on the worst player because I'm a big bottle job. The best player for me, I think is got to be O'Connor or Nevitt. Either one of those two, take your pick out of the. But I think they're both leaps and bounds been standout players in helping us. George Nevitt has impressed me the most. I think O'Connor has probably been the best on paper, and O'Connor coming in. After being in and out of that Wrexham squad last season, I think is impressive that he's been able to come and gel so quickly and make sure that we're playing at least some sort of good football again, even though the results aren't really spinning our way. But O'Connor's been better than I expected for sure.
All right. Of the current team, who is your favourite player? That's from Noah Salt.
I will answer that. I've got both their shirts behind me. For the men's team, Archie Collins. For the women's team, Kaylee Hines. They both do a similar role for their teams, which is the quiet midfielder that just does the simple stuff so that all the creative players can do their stuff in front of them. And they're often underrated. Their work often goes unnoticed because they don't do a lot in the final third. But I just really like that in a player in general, and I think they're both very good at doing it.
Yeah, I think Archie Collins is my favourite player as well. And I think that's because I'm still holding on to the Oxford season, really, the fantastic season that we had where, he won the trophy and made it to the playoffs. And I really thought that was our year to go up. And I think he's helped us bring so many good memories to the club in 2 trophies that I think he probably is my favourite player.
You guys are just going to cringe. My favourite player is Kean Hayes. I don't care. I love the way he plays the game. I see so much potential in him getting significantly better, and I really even think now he'll be a championship player one day because he's got all the technical ability in the world. He just needs to have end product consistently. And by the way, he's actually, when he's come on in some of the games earlier this season, he has started showing some of that end product. He's obviously scored a couple of times and he almost had a second one at Bradford later on in injury time. And if Lindgren had moved a bit further forward for the cross that he sprayed across against Plymouth, he'd have had an assist for Lindgren at the end of the Plymouth game. I just love the way he goes about his dribbling, and I think he will be a real talent one day.
Bilbo wants to know, how do you rate Bass? How do you rate Bass's start at Posh? Should we chuck that to you, Harry?
I think he's been a little bit less than I expected because I came in with such high expectations for him, being the best or second best keeper in League Two last season. I really thought this guy was going to be just top tier, and in his saves, he's been very much up there. But what surprised me kind of negatively a little bit is the distribution and the just unforced errors, if I'd call them that. The little ground kick at the beginning of the Huddersfield game, the ground kick at the beginning of the Plymouth game, both of which he got away with. The error away at Huddersfield in the second half, where he tried to pass it away when Joe Taylor was charging him down. The mistake for the Lincoln third goal. I see every single one of these as unforced errors. And so, except for maybe the Joe Taylor one, if you're being generous. So, yeah, I want to see a little bit more outside of the saves department. which sounds a lot like how we describe Bilo, but I do think he's a better keeper than Bilo. He just needs to sharpen up.
So Bass, he was a big fish in a little pond. Now he's a little fish in a big pond. Gone up a league. I don't think we have really seen the best of him. Honestly, I think he's just been a bit consistent. That's about it. When I say consistent, average is the word I was looking for. Average. Not really impressed me too much, but not really whatever. But I was expecting more, if I'm honest, on a consistent basis. So I think it's the jury's still out on Bass, if I'm honest.
All right, next up, another one from Matthew Lord. What do you think we need to get promoted to the Championship either this year or next? Who wants that one?
Me, a fucking miracle. Move on.
And the next question we've got is from Alex. Which team did you prefer, the lockdown promotion winning squad or the 23-24 squad with Burrows, Edwards, EMC, as Max called it, the Oxford squad?
This is fairly straightforward to answer, I think, because we couldn't go to the games during that COVID season. So I think we're all more emotionally attached to the 23-24 squad. There probably were better as well. There was definitely some better talent in there. When you think to that promotion winning squad, we had like Reece Brown and Louis Reed, and they've not really done anything in their career since, have they? That and the fact that the games I did watch on TV felt a bit scrappy that season. I don't know about you guys. The pitch was terrible, wasn't it? The football wasn't great. 23-24, we were playing some really entertaining football, really talented players. And the fans were just fully on board from the start of the season to the end, which obviously is something that the COVID season did not bring.
I 100% 23-24, and basically because we didn't really expect it. Let's be honest, that we had a really young team, and we actually, I believe, we punched above our league. We were very, very good. It was entertaining to watch, and nobody expected it. I thought that team impressed me. 23-24, 100%.
Yeah, it's also 23-24 for me. There were some players in the promotion squad, Reece Brown annoyed me. He was a stat padder. He loved passing the ball left and right and letting other people do the work. And don't get me wrong, Archie Collins recycling the ball frustrates me sometimes, but you can tell it's not because he's stat padding. It's just because he thinks it's the best decision to make on the pitch. I love Jono. I love Schmodix. I love Jack Taylor, but I love the 23-24 squad more, I'd say, across the board, all of them.
Right, next question is from Noah Salt. Who is the best ever Posh player? Obviously, I've only seen the last 15 to 20 years, and my answer is Ivan Toney.
Well, best or favourite? Favourite, I don't know. Nicky also even knows that. Best, do you know what? It hurts me to say it because I hate this player. But I think Marcus Maddison was probably one of the most technically best players we've ever had at Peterborough United. His attitude stank. Everything stank about him. You know, he didn't want to tackle. He didn't want to defend. But from a technical point of view, oh my God, how good was he? You know, he is, and also it's one of these career that's wasted. He could have been right at the top if he had the right attitude, and that's what's ruined him. But technically, he was one of the best players we've ever had. You know, we've had loads over the years, some good players, but I can't even believe I'm sort of saying him. But with Lod's Ivan Toney, very, very good. Yeah, he was too good for us when he, in the end. But yeah, that's where I've got to move on because I feel ill.
I've got a few in mind. I'm the same as Lods. I've been going for 20 years, just before the DMAC era was when I first started going. I have two in mind, 2.5 in mind for me. On their day, the most unplayable, I think, was Paul Taylor. The best all-round player is Grant McCann. But the one, if I had to pick, just put in a lineup and have the most confidence that they will deliver something for the game, is Dwight Gale. Over Ivan Toney as well.
This is going to be really bad because my answer is not the right answer. But you have to remember that I've not been going as long as Lods, Harry, or, you know, by no shock to the imagination, Dell. So there's no way that the players that I've got to name, well, the player I'm going to name right now, which Dell is going to hate, is going to be the correct one. For me, it's probably Jono. I think he's probably he's probably the best player for me. That just because he's brought me so much joy. B, he's a two-time League One Golden Boot winner. C, he scored the penalty to get us promoted. I mean, there's not more that you could ask for out of a player, and God, I miss him. I love him to bits. So I think it's probably Jono, but I know that's going to ruffle some feathers.
All right, next question. Favorite Posh kit? I know mine. You guys got any suggestions?
Mine, this might be recency bias. Mine is the current green kit, which you're currently wearing, Harry. This is all time. It's really, really grinding me. I liked it when it first came out, but I just, even like now, I like it even more. For the home kit, I'm attached to the 0809 one. That might just be a childhood memory thing for me. And then there is one from the 90s, one of the Thomas Cook ones that I quite like. I think it was 96. But yeah, I'm not really a big kit fan, if I'm honest.
Lodge, you said mine as well. I was going to say the 0809 with the white that came across and down here. I also really like the Argentina kit that was about the same time, the away kit.
I will jump in. I wasn't going to answer this question, but because you said it, I think is relevant. Is the green kit is one of my favourite kits of all time. Not because it's recent. I just really like the colour. I think it's a good top. Quite happy with it. But going back in time, I'm going to go to an old Fairview kit that I can just picture Bring Gun wearing. You know what I mean? But it's hard to explain, but probably because I'm old and I like that one. Or even some of the old Perkins or the Soda Stream. But the Fairview one, I don't know, just something about that one. But yeah, because some of the recent kits have been a little bit rubbish, got to be honest. But last year, I'll tell you, last year's away kit, the cream one was quite nice. But I'll go with the green one at the moment.
Yeah, I don't know why I've been invited to this session. I mean, we're trying to go back in time for favourite kits. I've got three in mind that I really liked. The two from the Oxford season, the home kit was bland and boring, but I've got so many good memories in it. Especially, the Wembley game was huge. I bought the kit as we went to Wembley with Burrows on the back, and I was like, I think he's going to score, and he scored two. And I've got a really nice memory in that kit. The Barcelona looking one from that season, Derby away, was a fantastic memory. I also think it was a lovely looking kit, and a bit of a rogue one, which I think nobody will agree with. I really like that mint green one. I think it was from the 22-23 season. I really like the mint green one. Everybody's disagreeing with me. Shock horror. But I really liked it. I thought it was really sleek, and I bought it as soon as I saw it. I thought it was awesome. So I like that one as well. So I've got no particular reason for liking that one.
Max, it looked like a cornetto. It wasn't very nice at all, mate.
I wouldn't describe it to a cornetto, but an ice cream, yeah, probably. But I liked it. No, it looked good. A mint chocolate chip ice cream. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, next question from Poshak. Start, bench, sell. Oh, why am I here? Start, bench, sell. George Boyd, Craig McAllister, or Aaron McLean?
I would start George Boyd. Obviously, one of the best players we've ever had, although he's not my best. George Boyd, bench Craig McAllister, and I would sell Aaron McLean. Simple as that.
I have a different answer. I am going to start Craig McAllister, and if he is unable to do the job in a game, I'm going to bring on from the bench Aaron McLean, and I'm going to sell George Boyd for no other reason than I think he'd fetch the most money, and I've got to think about the long-term future of the club.
My answer is the same as Dell. I actually find this question quite easy, purely because the way that Aaron McLean left the club, I hold him to a lower level than the other two. I love Aaron McLean. He's still very high up in my list of legends, but when you compare him to McAllister and Boyd, I think start Boyd because he's one of the best players we've ever had. And McAllister, although he was a starter for us, he would be a good impact player off the bench anyway. So my answer is the same as Dell. Moving on to the next question from Alex McCarthy. How many of the 92 have you visited so far, and which one has been your favourite? I like the 92 chat.
So we obviously saw this one in advance, had to go tot up our numbers. I worked out that with Posh, including London Road, I've been to 42 grounds. Outside of seeing Posh, a further 7. And then I've got 2 that no longer exist, which is the Bowling Ground and Goodison Park. Went there last season. Plus, I've also seen a gig at the London Stadium. So I've actually done 2 West Hams, but neither count towards the 92.
So I'll move on then to myself. Currently, I'm only sat at 76 out of 92. But over the years, I've probably done about 100, if that makes sense, for grounds that are no longer there, or like teams that have been relegated. You got your Southend's, your Kidderminsters, Darlington. Fucking, that was a dodgy place to go to, by the way. Doncaster's old ground. You know, there's loads of grounds that I've been to, but I can no longer count them because they don't exist or they're not in our league anymore. So, 76. And majority of them, with the exception of about 3, are with Peterborough United. It would be 77 because I went to see a rugby match at Stadium of Light, but apparently I can't count that. So, take your pick, 76 or 77.
So here we are. This is redemption here. So I've been to 40 of the 92 with Posh. Would have been 41, but obviously they've taken Goodison away. So 40 out of 92. However, I will be on 41 by the time November rolls around because I'll be going to Ellen Road with all of you guys for the FCA because that obviously counts as a ground tick.
I really have got to jump in here, right? I'm sorry, Max. We're taking a piss out of you and whatever. 40 in 2 or 3 seasons. Kudos to you, mate. I doffed me out. So in 3 more seasons, you'd have done a 92.
Well, I'm sitting here seething because rugby games don't count, Del. Music gigs don't count, Harry. And awards events don't count, Max. I think you can only tick them off if you watch a football game there. And I personally only count Posh games. So I'm on favourite of mine, 69. Friendlies is borderline. I don't know if you should count friendlies and women's games. We were talking before the show. Regarding favourite, I don't really have a favourite, to be honest, but the one that I was most blown away by was probably St James's Park, Newcastle. Obviously, you go up the 27 flights of stairs or whatever it is, but when you first walk out and you see the view, you can see like the city of Newcastle behind the stand and just how high up you are. It's actually a really amazing view. That's probably one of the only time I've been blown away from walking into the stadium.
My favourite, obviously outside of London Road, and this might shock you, but I've been there more than once, and there's just something about it. It helps that it's in London because that gives you a little bit of atmosphere beforehand. It's got an old school traditional feel on a weird and unique concourse, followed by a nice big stand where you can get a good atmosphere in it, looking at a really high quality stadium in front of you on all 3 other sides. The Valley, Charlton Athletic.
My favourite one of them is actually Exeter. I quite like Exeter. An old traditional little ground. And I've got to have a good nomination for Leyton Orient purely for the pie masher liquor.
Okay, and similar to the last question, which ground are you looking forward to visiting most? Who wants this?
Well, one of the ones I haven't ticked off yet that we will be ticking off this season is AFC Wimbledon. A nice little modern ground that seems like the right size for a club of their size, if that makes sense. Obviously, Wimbledon's got a lot of history. They're back at Plough Lane, aren't they? Where the old Wimbledon used to play. So yeah, that's the one I'm looking forward to going to the most. There's not really many big Premier League grounds that really interests me that much. So I'm quite happy that Wimbledon got promoted.
The ground I am most looking forward to going to is Luton Town. I've never been to Kenilworth Road, and I'm really, really excited to go there. I never thought I'd say I'd be excited to go to Luton, but I'm excited to go to their football stadium. I'll tell you that much for free.
What's my favourite that I'm looking forward to? Valley Parade, Bradford. Can't wait for it. Valentine's Day. Never been. Big stadium. But yeah, good quality, I think.
I've been to Wimbledon many times, but not at whatever it's called now. Is it Plough Lane again? So yeah, so that's another one that, I could tick Wimbledon off for 3 different grounds. But that's it. It's all I've got this season. So then.
All right, next question is from Scott Peterborough. Putting aside the logistical challenges, with the standard of refereeing in the league, would you be open to the introduction of VAR if it was possible?
Right, absolutely not. And if it was down to me, I would get rid of VAR in the Premier League and all other things. Goal line technology, I'd stick with VAR. Get rid of it. Right, get rid of it, because football is about the element of mistakes. You know, you go into work or whatever, you talk about football. You talk about the mistakes. You talk about this. VAR is ruining football. It's slowing the process down. Yeah, you may get a goal that shouldn't have been a goal and vice versa. Get rid of it. So I can't believe you even mentioned it. Get rid of VAR. I don't like it. I hate it. It should not be involved. Football is like a human game, not a electronic game. Do you know what I mean? And too much interference is slowing the game down and it's ruining it. So get rid of VAR. Absolutely hate it. And don't bring it in to lower leagues.
So I also obviously wouldn't bring in VAR in its current form, but I'm going to take this opportunity to talk about what would make VAR actually work. And that would be to take the initiation process away from the refereeing team and give each team's manager a challenge per half. That is what I would do. The players can then communicate to the manager, I'm telling you, that was a pen. Do the VAR. And the manager will say to the ref, I'd like it reviewed on VAR. And then they can go to the monitor and they can see if it was a pen. And by taking it out of the hands of the ref, I think that will help a lot with the kind of unbiased nature of it, basically, because the refs almost having to self-review, or the refereeing teams are having to self-review one of their colleagues, whereas the ref will now be listening to an alternative point of view from a manager and think, oh yeah, actually I can see that now and I didn't see that first time. And the decisions will be more fair, considerably more, I think. You could even waste a challenge on a throw-in if you really want to, or a corner.
I do really like the challenge idea. I think it'd be quite entertaining and fair. I'm obviously against VAR because it's rubbish. I think the thing that is annoying with VAR is the time it takes to make the decision. So I think if there was a speedier way of getting the correct decision within the first few seconds of it happening, then I'd probably change my opinion. If I was going to change something with VAR, it would be that they only watch 1 or 2 replays, because it was brought in to eliminate clear and obvious mistakes. So if they can't decide whether it's clear and obvious after the second replay, they should just stick with the referee's decision, because it's obviously not clear and obvious if they still can't decide after watching it 2 more times.
I love the challenge flag idea. They do similar things in America. And I think it is a fantastic way to do things and remove the unbias from the sport in the hands of the referee, and to avoid any sort of power trip. It's a fantastic way to do things, and I think that would help VAR, but I wouldn't have it down here. I think it's a terrible idea, and in its current form I can't see why the Premier League teams are so happy to keep it, because I think it ruins the viewing for the fans a lot of the time when we're waiting 30 minutes for a penalty that everybody can see on their telly is a penalty, for them to not give it as a penalty and everybody complain about it on Twitter.
Okay, let's move on then. So quite a good question, this one. If you did not support Posh, who would you support? I would like to answer this, but I'll let you guys go first.
Easy for me. I grew up 20 minutes or so from Peterborough. I grew up near Stamford. It'd be the Daniels for me. No question if Peterborough United didn't exist.
Mine's probably a bit difficult. I was a Man United fan when I was a kid, before I started going to Posh games. So I'd either be an armchair Man United fan, or maybe like Stamford or another local team, or Posh Women, of course, if they still existed.
Simply put, my answer is nobody. I wouldn't support football. The reason being is that I never actually liked football before I started watching Peterborough. So if Peterborough didn't exist, I wouldn't like football. So there's my answer. It's nobody.
Little story then. I grew up being a glory hunter, Liverpool fan. When I say grew up, to the age of about 7 or 8, following Liverpool during the glory days, late 80s, early 90s, when they was like winning everything. Great team. Can't stand Liverpool now, by the way. However, if I was brought up with my real dad, who and his dad, my granddad, were big Charlton fans, so I would probably have followed down that route and gone Charlton Athletic. But because I didn't know him, I had no choice. Peterborough United never changed me now. So a little bit of history into my background.
Right. These next questions are sort of a bit further away from football, more pod related. First one is from Kizza Marsh, aka Black Lad Travel. Would you have a match against the Yellow Block charity settings? I assume he means would you play the Yellow Block in a charity football game?
Oh, I wouldn't mind a match with him. I have no issues with him, but to be honest, I don't fancy travelling up to Bolton to play the game. You know what I mean? Nah, fair play. I have no issues with him whatsoever.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd play a charity game against the Yellow Block, and nothing against those lads. And I listen to their pod whenever it's on.
Yeah, look, I'm a Patreon member of Yellow Block, to be honest with you. So I do listen. I like all Peterborough United content. So as much as people might think that we have beef with the Yellow Block just because they're another podcast, I don't think it is the case. I think if you want to listen, you listen. If you want to listen to both, you listen to both.
Just in case you didn't know, I used to go and talk Posh, and when the Yellow Block come together, I was actually asked to go on it. But, you know, I was loyal to my roots. So, mate, I've got no issues with him. But I do hold the record for a quiz that they've done, I believe, knowing more than anybody else. But, no, joking apart, they're decent. There's room for more than one podcast.
Yeah, there is another question about the Yellow Block. This is from Andrew King. He said, do you think you'll release more articles than the Yellow Block release podcasts by the end of the season? And, yeah, I hate to say it, I think we've already probably doubled the number of articles that gone out compared to the episodes. In fact, to be honest, we're releasing on average like 2 articles a week, maybe one and a bit.
I don't think it's really a relevant question, if I'm totally honest, because we are two totally different things. You know, they do what they do, we do what we do. You know, they've got a good following, we've got a good following. You know, and I don't think it should be, are we better than them? Are they better than us? There's room for everybody, and but yeah, bottom line is we will.
All right, next up, who has the best and worst banter in your group chat? From Martin.
Oh dear. The best banter. Definitely not you, Harry. The best banter. I don't know. You know, there's some strong contenders. I think the best banter. I'm gonna give Lods. Only because he's here. But I'm gonna give it to Lods. The worst banter is you, Harry. Only because you troll me all the time and I don't enjoy it. So Harry definitely is the worst banter, and Loz is the best one.
Do you know what? I don't think it's banter in the group. I think it's bullying, right? And you all bully me all the fucking time, right? Seriously, I know I swore there, but I'm old, as you all know, and you just abuse me left, right, and centre. If this was a company, right, I would be at HR, you know, putting grievances in about all of you, because you generally do bully me. I'm not. Do you know what? We should start this WhatsApp team where people can buy into our group chat, right? And you'll see that I am abused left, right, and centre. You know, scroll up, parrot this, Dell said this, we've done that. What's this? Honestly, at times I cry myself to sleep with the bullying that goes on. So there's not really much banter. Bullying, I think, is a word you're looking for.
Well, I don't really fucking have banter in our chat. Sorry, Neil. I mean, fucking Nigel. Oh, fuck's sake. I've got to go to human resources now. They're fucking bullying me again.
Rest my case.
Honestly, the banter in our group chat is diabolical. I mean, I'll take the compliment, Max, but if you go by the ratio of how many of the things they say are actually funny that they post in the group chat, it's probably Charlie, purely because he just dips in and out. He barely posts, whereas I'm relentless on that group chat, which is probably why you've put me first. But in general, it's just terrible. You don't want to be in the group chat.
I would have gone with Charlie high up there. Ashley's high up there. Down at the bottom. I mean, it might be me. Because, I don't know, John doesn't really banter people, does he? But that doesn't make him bottom, because I try and just annoy people.
So another question from Scott Peterborough. A question regarding the pod. Obviously, it's going really well. I, among many fans, love it. Thank you very much, Scott. Is there something you are looking at as a goal or aim, or is it more the case of continuing putting content out and not concerning yourself with targets? Either way, I hope you're around for many seasons to come.
Yeah, I think I speak for everyone here that says we've already way surpassed anything that we thought we would achieve. I remember when we first got the 3 figures of listeners, we were all buzzing, and now we're consistently getting 4 figures every week, which is really amazing. So appreciate the comment there. Obviously, our next objective is to win the Football Content Award. We wanted to go for the best newcomer. So to completely bypass that and go for best club content creator is a massive achievement in itself. Basically saying our content's too good to be classed as a newcomer, which is really good. And then I guess just grow it and grow it and grow it. We want to put the content out for the listeners. It's not anything that's a personal achievement to us. It's more just seeing what content we can put out, and if you enjoy it, then we'll keep making it, and if you don't, we'll stop making it. Pretty simple, really.
I think what's been good about it is that among the group, there's ideas thrown around regularly, and so there's almost no point creating specific targets because we come up with new things that we want to do out of the blue, and then we just go, right, let's put our absolute maximum effort into it and see what happens from there. Like whether it's the away day ratings or the clips and the shorts that we do, I don't think any of those are on our radar at the beginning or even 6 months in, but whenever we decide, right, let's give this a go, the 7 of us go, let's try and make this as good as we possibly can every single time. And for that reason, yeah, targets aren't the most important thing. It's about making sure that in each little moment, we do everything we can to make it as good as possible for our listeners.
So just part of that question as well is who come up with the name of Up The Poshcast? So initially, I think it was me and Lods was talking about setting this podcast up, and I come up with a name, Up The Fucking Poshcast, because it was based on one of Up The Fucking Posh was based on a sticker that was done and something I've done elsewhere. And we initially done that. We initially set up a Twitter account. We initially set up an email account and then we thought, you know what? That's not right. So we dropped the effing. Hence why it's just Up The Poshcast. So I think it was between me and Lods, if I'm honest. Let's be honest. Lods decided that we're going to be doing Up The Poshcast. He got rid of the effing in between it, but it was between me and Lods that sort of come up with that name originally. So well done for overpowering and getting rid of the swear word.
I actually had to go back and look at our first ever conversation to sort of remember exactly how it came about. And you're right, Del, it was me and you that come up with the word Poshcast. I don't know who came up with it, and you were campaigning for Up The Fucking Poshcast. I was campaigning for just the Poshcast. And then when we discussed it with the wider group, there is actually a podcast already out there called The Poshcast. And that's why we landed on Up The Poshcast as a sort of middle ground between the two suggestions.
All right. Last question from Andrew King. Have you thought about doing a live episode with an audience? Maybe even a Christmas special so we could all get together?
Yeah, I can just imagine Harry and Lods hosting some sort of Christmas special and everybody wanting to go home. Booze and rotten tomatoes thrown on the stage. That is my picture of a Christmas special. I think it could be good. Lods will come in after me, I'm sure, but he will tell you how desperate he is to do some sort of a quiz. And if we can get the venue and the equipment set up, I don't see why we couldn't do something along those lines. And it could be a really good idea.
I think with the live shows, this is something that we've not really thought about. There's obviously a lot of logistical challenges, venue, all being available at the same place, equipment, etc. I think if we were going to do it, we would need to know that we have the audience there, which if people are listening right now and they would come and pay and watch us do one of these in real life, then let us know. But if not, then it won't be on the cards, unfortunately. If there are things that you want us to see us produce, like a quiz, then you need to let us know. Because unfortunately, out of the 7 of us, there are people who are against doing quizzes and they are currently blocking us from putting that content out. So if all the listeners get together and demand that we release some sort of quiz, then it will happen. Or any other content for that matter.
Do you know what? How funny would that be? An evening with Up The Poshcast, right? I know that's like just blowing smoke up our asses, but an evening with Up The Poshcast held at London Road, Peterborough United. We're in the sponsors lounge, or even the Caroline Hands box, what do you call it? And we're up there, all 7 of us, with our 5 followers. You know what I mean? There'll be more of us than there will be people paying to come and see us, but that'd be funny. If somebody wants to sponsor it, somebody wants to sort of like come up with some ideas, I'm up for it. In the 18 months or wherever it is that we've been doing this, is fantastic. You know, I'm going off on a tangent now, but honestly, there's 7 of us, as you know, all different types of people. You know, some get on better with others, whatever, we abuse each other, but it's worked really, really well. And as Lods has said, the fact that we've been nominated for such a prestigious award, and it is, you know, let's not beat about the bush. I think it's superb, and we would only have done it with people, you know, supporting us, sponsoring us. We're having people like come and donating like money towards us to help us keep this going. You know, want to come and sponsor us and asking for autographs. Fucking, I never thought that would happen. You know, and you know, wanting pictures with us, and it's absolutely superb. But we work hard. There are people that work harder than others. Let's not beat about the bush. You know, I'm not a really big hard work on it because they won't let me near the editing, they won't let me near this or whatever, and I get that, you know, but I'm rambling on because I think we need to give ourselves kudos.
Watch this space for a live in the future. But for now, I think we're there. I've enjoyed this. We should have more weeks without football because this is it's nice not to complain about a loss. And with that, Up the Poshcast.
Up the Poshcast.
Up the Poshcast.
Up the Poshcast.
Or it could have been Up the fucking Poshcast.
Well, the first thing I'd do is I would get rid of Fergie, and then my replacement manager would be Phil Adlam. And then what I would do is I would appoint Darren Ferguson to take Phil Adlam's role. And then when Phil loses his first game, I want Fergie to interview Phil and go, "Well, Gaffer,